am very grateful to be with all of you this evening. Thank you very much. With all the busyness and multitudes of alternatives offered on a Friday night in Mumbai, you have all chosen to be here. For this, we are very grateful. Spiritual progress is not something that we just decide to do and then everything happens automatically. Spiritual progress comes with our moment-to-moment choices. Our sadhana, our satsang, associating with inspiring, enlightening people who strengthen our faith, who open our minds to higher levels of hope and deeper connections to God. And sadhana is where we cultivate those treasures to actually gain realization. That gives us like a foundation we can build our life upon through our sadachar, through our activities. True peace, true happiness, according to our Vedic scriptures, is realized to the extent we put our selfish interests outside of the center of the purpose of our life. And we put Krishna or God in the center. What does it mean to put Krishna in the center of our life? Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava saman. Krishna tells in Gita that he's the source of all material and spiritual worlds. When we speak of Krishna, we are speaking of God, of the one absolute truth, the one God that has many religions, that has appeared within this creation many times in many places, and with many names. And that one truth is the source of everything and everyone that exists. This is the beginning statement of the Brahma Sutra. The Vedic literatures are vast. There are the 4 Vedas, there are 108 primary Upanishads, there are 18 primary Puranas, there is more Puranas beyond that. There is the Samhitas, Mahabharata, Ramayana. Practically every important subject in every level of life is discussed in various literatures of the Vedas. And the compiler of the Vedanta, or Vyasadeva, he wrote the Brahma Sutra to bring the essence of all this knowledge in one place, in short codes or sutras. And he begins, Janmadyasya yataha, that the supreme truth is the source of everything that exists, from whom everything emanates. The Srimad Bhagavatam is declared to be the commentary of the Vedanta Sutras by Vyasadeva himself. And he writes that when you water the root of the tree, naturally that water extends to every part of the tree. The branches, the leaves, the twigs, and the flowers. And similarly, when you put food in the stomach, the nourishment goes to every part of the body. So in the same way, when we put Bhagavan in the center of our life, that means we actually put everyone and everything in the center of our life. Sri Chaitanya, he explained it in this way, that when we actually put God in the center of our life, realistically, practically, the happiness that we discover is through seva, through service. Paraduka duki. And true service is with the intention that other people's happiness is my happiness, and other people's suffering is my suffering. This is compassion. Compassion is the nature of love of God. Compassion is the nature of a true spiritual connection. Amanina manadena. When we're actually accessing God's grace, not just by talk or imagination, but with realization, then we learn how to respect all others, how to truly be a well-wisher of others. On one level, compassion is not to cause unnecessary harm to any living being. But on another level, compassion is to serve and to live in such a way that we inspire the highest opportunities for happiness in other living beings. Simply to not cause pain is only part of compassion. But to inspire real progress. All living beings within this world have a body, and many have emotions or a mind. And also, the source of life is the Atma, the living force, or the soul. Just as Vedanta Sutra begins with Janmadya Shagataha, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was teaching Sanatana Goswami, he spoke such a vast treasure of knowledge and wisdom. From the very beginning stages of spirituality to the highest, ultimate revelations of divine love. And he built his whole philosophical explanation on one small sutra. Jivera Swarupoi Krishnara Nityadas. That we're all eternally the servants of Bhagavan, of Krishna, or of God. We're not meant to strive to be the proprietors, the enjoyers, or the controllers, because it's an illusion. The nature of the soul is beyond those fantasies. We want to be controllers, but we're constantly under control. We're under the control of time. We have to grow old. We're under the control of government leaders, whether we like it or not. We're under the control of powers, sometimes of envious people, sometimes of very kind and compassionate people. We're under the control of the elements, the cold and the wind and the earthquakes and the tsunamis. And so many of us are under the control of our own minds. We want to be happy, but we're not happy. We want to be peaceful, but there's not peace. And ultimately we have to grow old, get diseased, and die. So to try to be the controller in this world is a miserable situation, essentially. We want to be the proprietor, but to be a proprietor means you have control over what you own. And ultimately everything is taken away from us. And we want to be enjoyer. And so often this propensity is at the cost of other people's well-being. The true nature of our heart is to serve with love. The body, the mind, and the Atma. So to show kindness through our words, through our actions, to be an instrument of mercy to others is the mode of goodness, that is sattva guna. And the transcendental state is when that sattva guna becomes Suddha sattva, when it includes kindness to the Atma, to the souls of others. Because it is everyone's deepest propensity to be happy. Bhagavad Gita tells that when we find happiness within ourselves, we can be happy in any situation. But when we do not find happiness within ourselves, we're always trying to adjust material energy for the purpose of happiness. But it never lasts, and it's always thoroughly incomplete. Because the Atma is seeking love, to connect with the infinite, eternal love of God, and to love God, which extends to all living beings who are part of God. That's our propensity. So the highest compassion is actually facilitating people, not in a sectarian way, but in a deep and powerful spiritual way, to actually realize their propensity. On an external level, to feed somebody is a form of compassion. To hospitalize somebody is also a form of compassion. To educate a person so that they can actually do something and meet a higher potential is even a deeper form of compassion. What is the potential of the soul? Due to a lack of this type of education, due to a lack of this type of direction and inspiration, there's such a disconnection between people's lives and their own hearts. And yoga is to reconnect our words, our thoughts, our action, every aspect of our life with the propensity of the heart or the soul. And that is to serve with love. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Krishna tells in Gita that time and again I come to this world to establish true spiritual principles. Every great and true religion in the world throughout history in all different countries is the same one God coming to remind us of what we have forgotten. When my guru Srila Prabhupada came to New York City, he was asked, Swamiji, we already have our own religions in this country. Why have you come? And Srila Prabhupada said, I have not come to convert. I have come to enlighten. I have come simply to remind you what you have forgotten. That's God's message when he comes, just to teach us what we have forgotten. What is our real need? What is our true propensity? Seva, to serve with compassion. That is love for God. The journey home for everyone is to find that truth, that realization within ourselves. And bhakti, or true spirituality in this sense, is completely practical. Due to certain types of propaganda or distractions, people think that there's the practical side of my life, and then there's the spiritual or religious side of our life. Bhagavad Gita is a scripture, as all are, that integrates our spirituality with every aspect of our life. It's completely practical. It's practical to be happy. When we're looking for that happiness through things and for physical and emotional comforts, our expectations become high and our frustrations rise, usually always above our expectations. Because the world doesn't work that way. Brahma, who's the secondary creator of this world, he has spoken, it's in the Bhagavad Purana, that the whole purpose of how this world operates is to give people an opportunity that there's something more. And unless we seek that something more that is within ourselves, in our love of God, we will inevitably be frustrated in whatever arrangements we try to make. So when we take to spiritual life, the same challenges, the same potential frustrations, the same setbacks are going to be there for us. It's not that when we become spiritual, the world becomes favorable toward all of our worldly desires. We still get sick. We still have relatives that die. We still get betrayed by people. We're still dishonored from time to time. Sometimes we succeed and sometimes we fail. Spiritual life is not just to make our external experience better. Spiritual life is to give us such a strong internal spiritual foundation that the external circumstances do not distract us from our integrity or from the real joy that we have. Spiritual life is finding something so valuable, so rich, so precious, something that is beyond time, something that is beyond all the inevitable changes of worldly life. Spiritual life is about discovering that and sharing it with others. The basic principle of true spirituality is simplicity. This is practical. Simplicity means to live without duplicity. It also means to be happy with very simple things. A little baby is really happy with simple things. They don't need computers. They just want to be loved. Yes? They just want to love and show their love. That's the most innate, basic human principle. And spirituality, even if we're scientists, even if we're great philosophers, even if we're leaders of political movements, when our happiness, when our values are based in these simple principles, then nothing can disturb our joy. And then we are really empowered to make a difference within other people's lives in a deep, profound, and lasting way. When our heart is not simple, as a well-wisher of everyone, there's no envy. If there's one quality that destroys the beauty of simplicity, it is envy. Because we put our own ego so much in the center of our lives that we can't tolerate when other people are doing better than us. We become arrogant in our success, and we become envious in our shortcomings. And why is there cruelty? Cruelty to other living beings, to other humans, to other races or sexes or religions of humans. Cruelty to other living beings, the animals, the birds, the fish. That cruelty is actually based on a deep-seated envy. An envy where we put ourselves so much in the center, we don't see that our true well-being is in giving happiness and quality to the lives of others. Our Guru Srila Prabhupada, he asked us to have programs for protecting cows. When he came to America, he saw almost everybody was eating all kinds of different meat. Where I was born, Chicago, at that time in the 1950s, Chicago had the largest slaughterhouse on planet Earth. It was called the Union Stockyards. And sometimes it was in the south side of Chicago. Sometimes we would go to this concert arena called the International Amphitheater. And we'd have to drive by that neighborhood. And whenever we would drive by, in those days there wasn't air conditioners in cars. My father would always say, roll up the windows. Because it smelled like death. It was horrible. The entire area for miles smelled like death. And I remember asking myself, why are we eating that stuff? We can't stand the smell of it, but we're eating it. Srila Prabhupada, he established cow protection. But he said protection of the cows is not just not killing them. It's actually respecting their rights as God's children and living beings. By giving them love, by giving them happiness, protecting their natural propensity to be happy. And by giving them an environment where the holy name of the Lord is being chanted and seva is being performed, even their souls, their atmas are being inspired and protected. And the concept of cow protection in this way is because cows are completely dependent on human compassion in the world we live. And when we understand that principle, it naturally extends to all other animals and birds and all other living beings. I'd like to share one little story with you. When I first arrived in India in 1970, I was stopped at the border because I only had about 26 cents. And they demanded that I must have $200 to come into India. The border guard told me that we have enough beggars. We don't want another one. You are rejected. I pleaded, I begged, I argued, I cried, but the guard was more and more angry each time I tried to persuade her, until they put guns in my face and made me go back. But I had nowhere to go back to. I was in a no man's land between Pakistan and India. And I sat there and I kept trying for 6 hours. And finally the guard changed. And I begged the new guard, please give me a chance. I've risked everything. 6 months I've been hitchhiking from London just to find the treasures of your culture and your people. Please just give me a chance. And ultimately he gave me a chance. Just January 26, Republic Day, I was invited to the Rashtrapati Bhavan. It's the palace of the President of India. It's a very beautiful place. And not too many people were invited for this event. But we went through security, and then I went into the back gardens, and it was a reception for the President of the United States and his wife, Michelle and Barack Obama. And all the leaders of India's politics were there, Narendra Modi and Sonia Gandhi and Manmohan Singh. They were all sitting together. And I was there, and as I was looking at them, and there was military bands playing some songs, and there was the national anthem. I happened to look up, and there was a bird flying overhead. I must say this was the highlight of my whole experience there. Because, I was honored to be there and everything like that. And I was thinking 45 years ago, I came knowing no one, and I was rejected, and now I'm being invited to the president's mansion to receive the president of the United States. So I was amused with how things change in life. And then I looked up at this bird, and it kind of looked like the bird was looking at me too. Because I kind of stood out. I was the only spiritual person in this crowd. I was like this, and everyone else was in tuxedos and everything, very nicely dressed. So as I was looking at the bird, I was thinking that the Atma in the bird and the Atma of the Prime Minister and the presidents and all of these, competing political parties that are sitting before me, it's of the same quality. They're all a part of God. They're all the children of Krishna. And each has their own excellences. That bird definitely cannot rule a nation. But then the rulers of the nation cannot fly in the sky. You know, they came on Air Force One in their airplane, but they can't fly on their own. So each living being is gifted by God with certain special qualities. Little insects, they crawl up the wall. None of us can crawl up walls. They can fly. We can't fly. Every living being has certain very, very special gifts of God. And the nature, the gift that human being has, tato brahmatikyasa, is we have the opportunity to actually be instruments of God's love and God's grace to all other living beings. We have the power within this human life to actually understand who we are. And once we understand who we are, we naturally can perceive who everyone else is. Not just on the physical and emotional level, but on a spiritual level. So this was just such a special gift to see the bird and the leaders of several nations with this appreciation. The true potential within all of us is that we are immortal children of the same God. And that God is all attractive, all beautiful, all loving, and all merciful. And that makes we have those same qualities within ourselves. Mamaivam so jivaloke, as parts of Krishna. Seva means to be an instrument of that grace in whatever we do. And disconnected from that propensity within ourselves is the cause of so much suffering and so many problems. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a beautiful story of a king. His name was Ambarish. Ambarish, even though he was such a wealthy, powerful person, he was such a great devotee of the Lord. He had wife and children, and he had such a high-level occupation. He was the king of an empire. Such responsibility. Yet, he always saw that everything was God's property, and everyone was God's children. And he was not the master. He was the caretaker on behalf of God. Caretaker. And he saw every living being like his own children. So he fasted, he performed tapasya for the purpose of purifying his own heart so he could render deeper loving service to Krishna and all beings. And he also performed his tapasya to try to set an example for others. Because what leaders do, common people are very influenced by. Yad yad acharati srestas. What leaders do, common people follow. Mahajano yena katasa panta. What great people do, common people will naturally follow. And we all have a choice of who we're going to consider great and who we're going to take example and inspiration from. Sometimes our children. They go into the company of gangs or people who do things that are very, very detrimental to their health and to society. Because somehow or other they see someone as their leader, or as they say in certain parts of Mumbai, they see somebody as being very cool. So they want to emulate that, and that becomes their standard. Human evolution is when human society starts seeing people who are actually beyond egoism and beyond greed, and who are actually compassionate beings, God-loving beings. When we see that they're great, they are inspiring, then human society becomes like that. Otherwise, it's just whoever could, through cutthroat processes, make the most amount of money and get the most amount of power and have the most amount of physical pleasures, that's considered great. So Ambarish was a king. He was fasting and performing tapasya as an example for the world. And a rishi named Durvasa came with 60,000 disciples to Ambarish's house. And Ambarish said, I want to feed you prasad, please sit for prasad. And Durvasa Muni said, I must take my bath first. This took place in Madhuban, which is a part of Braj Bhumi. So Durvasa went to the Yamuna to take his bath. And then he went into a state of samadhi, and it was taking a long time. And Ambarish, his fast had to be broken by a certain prana, a certain time. And some Brahmins came to him and said, you have to break your fast now. He said, but I don't want to eat before my guest. What should I do? So he remembered a word from the scripture that by drinking a little water, charanamrit, it's simultaneously fasting and not fasting. So he took a drop of water that was offered to Krishna, charanamrit. Durvasa Muni understood that happened, and he was furious. You invited me and you ate before me? Ambarish said, I'm just trying to do what's best for everyone. Durvasa Muni threw a mantra. He pulled a hair out of his head and threw it on the ground. A fiery monster was created. And this monster was such a devastating being. He was so vicious. He came to destroy Ambarish. He was only inches away. Ambarish didn't call his armies. He folded his hands. And he just prayed to Lord Narayan, to Bhagavan, that my Lord, if you want to protect me, I have nothing to fear. And if you want to kill me, then if you want me to die, then I want to die also. Because my soul is immortal. Nothing can kill my soul. All that matters is I'm remembering you. And with gratitude and love, he just remembered Krishna in this most desperate situation. And he was fearless, and he was peaceful. And Vishnu sent his Sudarshan Chakra, his weapon, and he eliminated that fiery monster. And then the chakra went to Durvasa. Now Durvasa's a sannyasi. He's a Swami, like I am. Swamis are supposed to be renounced. Renunciation really means not that you have nothing to fear, because you renounce the illusory conceptions. You renounce the separateness of our egos between ourselves and all other living beings and Krishna and God. But as soon as the Sudarshan Chakra came toward Durvasa, he ran away. He ran really fast. He was a mystic. How fast he could run. And when he couldn't run fast enough, he started to fly. And he flew from planet to planet. And it was right behind him. And ultimately he came to Brahma Loka, to Shiva Loka, to Indra Loka. Then he went to Vaikuntha, to the abode of Narayan. And he said, I'm surrendering to you. Please take your weapon away. Because Krishna promises, if you surrender to me, I give you all protection. What Vishnu spoke was so beautiful. He said, because I'm always within the heart of Ambarish Maharaj. Ambarish Maharaj is always in my heart. When you attack him, when you attack one who loves me, you are attacking me. I have no power to protect you because I've given my heart to my devotee who loves me. If he forgives you, then I have no power to punish you. If he doesn't forgive you, I have no power to protect you. That's the reciprocation between Lord and devotee. So Durvas Muni went back, and Ambarish was waiting for him. He still had his prasad. And when Ambarish saw the chakra behind Durvasa, he prayed with all his heart. If I've ever done anything to please you, my Lord, please take all my credits just to forgive him and make him happy. When Durvas Muni saw this, Durvasa understood this is a yogi. One who can forgive even in such difficult situations. One who is eager to serve even in the most challenging conditions. This is a yogi. This is real renunciation. I'm living in caves and he's living in palaces. I'm just doing sadhana all day and he's ruling over armies and he's ruling over nations and he's taxing citizens and he's doing all of these things and he has a wife and he has children, and in order to have children you have to have sex and all this kind of stuff, and I'm a celibate. But he's a better yogi than me. Because he's peaceful in any situation. Because he just wants to serve with love. He has the power to forgive. He has the power of compassion. And he's humble. Durvasa fell at Ambarish's feet, and Ambarish fell at Durvasa's feet, and Durvasa started to praise him, and Ambarish said, no, you are a great saint, I'm nothing. I just want to give you prasad. Please take your prasad. So what is really valuable in life? Grihe tako, vanne tako, saddha hari bole tako, suke duke bulo nako, vadane hari nam koro re, kai gora madhu sware. Whether we're grihastas with families, husbands, wives, children, or whether we're living in the jungle as yogis or swamis, those are external responsibilities. But if we're connected to that divine source within ourselves, we can be beyond all the apparent happiness and distress of this world. Because we experience something higher. Param drishtva nivartate. Harinama, harinam, harinam, eva kevalam, kalo nasteva, 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 gatyaranyata. And in this age and time that we're living now, the most powerful, the most direct and simplest way of making that connection and finding that inner transformation is chanting these beautiful names of God. Enechi asadi maya nashibaro lagi harinama mahamantra lautumi magi. It's the medicine that cures us of this envy and this arrogance and this greed and this anger and this selfishness. It's the medicine that restores our original natural health. And when we make that choice to make this the foundational value and purpose of our life, then we build everything upon that. We make our home a temple of God. We make our family a community of God's people. We make our own body a temple of God just by recognizing the truth. And in this way, in a very practical way, at every moment of our life, when we live with this spiritual direction and this integrity of seva, then every day we're coming closer and closer in our journey home. In the book Journey Home, I write about how I traveled to so many places and studied so many religions and studied under so many people. And when I found my guru, Srila Prabhupada, in the path of bhakti to Krishna, which was just so beautiful, it just enriched me, and I felt it included everything else I had ever learned. I visited my parents. When I was in the 1960s a teenager, like most American young people, counterculture, we just wanted to get out of our homes and do something special. But here I was back at their home, and I was thinking, whether I'm in Vrindavan or the Himalayas or at my parents' home, if I'm remembering Krishna and I'm trying to live in a spirit of seva for Krishna, I'm actually home everywhere and anywhere. When we find our home within ourselves, in our own connection to God, then we see every living being as our family. And that's home. So I wish and I pray that together we can all make progress in our journey home and inspire everyone we come in contact with. Thank you very much.